Hi everyone, today I'm going to review the very first desktop headphone of FiiO, which is called FT3, but these are not their first headphones. That would be the EH3 wireless and noise cancelling headphones, which are no longer being made. Knowing how plasticky those EH3 felt, I lowered my expectations regarding these ones, but honestly, they exceeded my expectations not only in terms of build quality, but also in terms of sound quality, but more about that in a minute. Let's unbox them first and let's see what's inside that package. The whole unboxing experience is great, and although I have tested a lot of headphones in the same price bracket, none of them came with as many accessories. First of all, they have this great looking carry case which will nicely protect them when traveling. This is a high quality carry case as well. Another surprise was their detachable cable, which completely lacks microphonics when rubbing against your clothing. It uses 3.5mm jacks on the headphone end and swappable headphone jacks on the other side. They are offering 3.5 jacks and a 1/4 inch adapter, a 4.4mm balancer jack and a 4-pin XLR adapter, so you can use them with portable or desktop devices, and I don't see the point of changing it with a different cable. This is not your regular oxygen-free copper cable, as FiiO used monocrystalline OCC copper conductors of a higher purity. Such a third-party cable usually costs around $300 US, and that's actually the full price of FT3 and all its accessories. You can find an extra pair of earpads, and in total you'll have a pair of protein earpads and a pair of suede earpads, which will sound differently, but more about that in a minute. Build quality wise, I was surprised by how everything is put together. I don't hear any cracks when adjusting them, when putting them on my head. Everything you see is actually made from aluminum alloy, and this leathery texture, maybe it's leather, I'm not really sure. They don't apply a lot of pressure around my ears, and there is literally none on top of my head, so I can wear them easily for a few hours and that wouldn't be a problem. Build quality wise is actually very nice overall. One thing that needs to be mentioned is that their ear pads and their ear cups are not massive, and especially their suede ear pads have a slightly lower opening right here, and if you have some smaller ears, that could be a problem. That wasn't a problem with my elven ears. I have pretty big ears, as you can see, but I can wear them. They are not touching those pads, so I believe they are pretty nice. The only thing I can complain about are their ear cup designs. As you can see, they look like sports car rims, so they don't bother me at all, but they look kind of unusual to me. As for tech inside them, these are open back dynamic headphones that use a big 60mm driver. For a planar headphone, that doesn't sound like a big driver at all, but for dynamic headphones, this is a big ass driver, and after removing those earpads, you can see how big it is. This is a beryllium coated driver as well, which improved its rigidity, so you should expect a faster decay, a cleaner sound, and just an overall nicer detail retrieval. What was kind of unusual was going with a 350 ohm impedance, and while FiiO states that it has a pretty high sensitivity of 105 dB, in reality these are one of the hardest to drive headphones that I have at my disposal. This is pretty much it, so let's hit some eardrums and let's check them out. Sound-wise, let's talk about sensitivity and about power requirements first. Long story short, you will need more juice to drive these to the optimum, even versus a few planar magnetic headphones. For example, Meze Elite, Kenerton Rogner, Odyssey LCD5, RZH Phobos and RZH Charybdis all needed less power to drive them compared to these at the same volume level. For example, for an SPL of 90 dB on Meze Elite would equal to an SPL of 86 dB on the FT3. I measured that with the mini DSP ears, And you can hear that these are not sounding as loud compared to those planar magnetic headphones. So in reality, they need quite a lot of power. Even Sennheiser HD800S sounded by 1 dB louder compared to these headphones. So, and mind you, HD800S are not super easy to drive. You can drive these with portable devices, but you can forget about USB dongles or lightweight and small portable digital audio players. You need some bigger devices, bigger digital audio players, and bigger DAC amp combos. From FiiO portfolio, I do believe that only M15S and M17 worked amazing with these, so dynamics were amazing. They had a really nice punch in the bass. If you want to go with a DAC amp combo, then you can go with FiiO Q7, you can go with ShineLink H7 or with Tapping G5. All those small USB dongles didn't work with these. I tried that Hibi FC6, I tried FiiO KA5, I tried ShineLink UA5, but all those honestly didn't work that great with these. Of course, they worked best with desktop headphone amplifiers. I like the best all discrete headphone amplifiers which don't use op amps in the signal path, and the best ones absolutely were tube amplifiers which calmed a little bit the top octave, which is a little bit hotter sounding in their stock form, and also expanded the soundstage. So I do believe they sound slightly better with tube amplifiers which can provide a higher voltage swing, because honestly at 350 ohms these are mostly voltage driven. When it comes to tonality, you should know that you are getting two very different sound signatures depending on what earpads you'll be using. With Protein earpads, you can feel that the bass is not as visceral, is not that impactful. The energy is lowered a little bit, so it's lighter weight. It's more linear sounding in a way, so the mid bass, sub bass, and mid range are not going up or down from linearity, although the upper treble is definitely a little bit elevated. What I like with these Protein earpads is that the sound is faster, it's tighter, it's more directional, and it's more precise as well. It's summertime outside, and I'm sweating with all kinds of Protein and leather earpads, and that's why I used suede earpads most of the time. With these, you can feel that the bass is immediately improving, it's punchier, it's more present, it's elevated from linearity, that is for sure, but I do believe that it works to the advantage, especially with low power devices or with portable devices. I immediately felt a substantial boost in the bass, the drivers are vibrating a little bit more, and my earlobes are flapping in the air, especially with bass-intensive music. Another highlight of suede earpads is that the soundscape is improving, the sound is bigger, especially from left to right there is a wider sound in a way, although their depth is not improving at all. There is definitely a little bit more air in between the notes, and these don't sound crowded as leather pads might sound with a few modern tracks. Their general sound is clean. I do believe there is enough detail retrieval, especially at this price point. They will easily challenge something like Sennheiser HD650, although they are not sounding so impressive in terms of transparency and cleanness compared to something like Hyphaman Sundara. Moving on to dynamics and transients, it really depends on how much power is flowing through their cables. For example, I find them quite polite, lightweight sounding on portable devices. They sound much punchier, much more dynamic via desktop solid-state headphone amplifiers, but they shined much brighter on tube amplifiers, sounding considerably better because at 350 ohms, as I was saying, these are mostly voltage driven. And tube amplifiers, especially OTL amplifiers, can provide a very healthy voltage output. They sounded completely different out of a high-end Travomatic Primavera amplifier, and I'm not about their dynamics transients, but also about their scale. They sounded much airier, much bigger, so I was listening to a very different headphone in a way. From portable devices, from my stable, I do believe only two worked just outstanding, providing a really nice kick in the bass, very good dynamics, very fast sound, fast decays, and those were FiiO Q7 and M17. Everything else was okay, but not really outstanding. With all that being said, these won't outperform mid-range planars because those usually have a more physical representation of the low end. Their Soundstage is just fine. I'm reminding you that they have bigger 60mm drivers compared to Mesium 109 Pro, compared to Sennheiser HD650, compared to Kenton Valley, so their sound waves will move more air inside your ear canal. The scale of the music is impressive, especially with suede earpads. I never felt that I'm suffocating on crowded music. They can create a very precise 3D map of your sound. There is enough air in between the notes, but they cannot provide that wall of sound that planar headphones are providing. Pricier planar headphones definitely sound bigger, so HiFiMan Edition XS, HiFiMan Ananda are sounding considerably bigger, although they will outperform pricier dynamic headphones like Sennheiser HD650, like Olo S4X, S5X, and Sandy Audio Apollo, and many others. When I'm placing my hands on their ear caps while listening to music, I cannot feel that the sound is shrinking in size. And while FiiO calls them as open back headphones, to me they sound more like semi-open back headphones, so they are not leaking a lot of sounds outside their caps versus proper open back headphones like HiFiMan Susvara, Mesilite, like Sennheiser HD800S. Let's talk about the frequency response. The bass with protein earpads is very linear, but also very present. So I can hear those 20 Hz notes pretty easily, even with jazz tunes. Organ pipes are decaying very naturally. I can hear them very present in my tunes, so the bass is very good even on protein earpads. It's a high quality type of bass. I do believe it's a better bass of a higher quality compared to Sennheiser HD650. Although it's not as clean or fast sounding compared to HiFiMan Sundara. Change those protein earpads with suede earpads and you can feel immediately that the bass is going up by a few dB. It's elevated. From linear sounding headphones, these are becoming quite basic, quite fun, quite juicy sounding. So that can work to the advantage, especially when used with entry-level setups with portable devices, so take that into consideration. Personally, I like their mid-range a little bit more on protein earpads, which are making them a little fuller bodied, a little bit more playful versus their suede earpads, which are lacking just a little bit of body in the upper mid-range. With all that said, I still find them better sounding in the mid-range compared to mid-range planars like HiFiMan Edition XS, compared to HiFiMan Ananda, HiFiMan Sundara, although they are not as impressive like Sennheiser HD650, but they are gently and slowly going into that direction. In either case, you won't get that nasal, shouty, or thin mid-range. That is not going to happen. You can feel that you are listening to a dynamic driver headphone because the sounds are decaying a little bit slower, much closer to real life versus planar headphones, which can sound too exciting and too fast at times. Their treble is both amazing but also bothersome. It's amazing because there's plenty of bite, plenty of sparkle, it's very exciting sounding, especially in the most sensitive part of our hearing, so in between 6 and 8 kHz. The problem is exactly in that region, in the most sensitive part of our hearing, the treble goes up from linearity by about 9 to 10 dB, so that is quite a big peak in the treble, making them sharp and quite tiresome in long listening sessions, especially with the wrong equipment, with the wrong music. So I want to make it very clear that these are not bright sounding headphones, but they can feel like that with the wrong electronics, with the wrong music. Personally, I enjoy them a lot more with all discrete headphone amplifiers which don't use op-amps in the signal path, or better yet, they sounded even better with tube amplifiers or OTL amplifiers which are taming the top octave and just are removing that treble excess or energy from the treble. Moving on to measurements, This is their raw frequency response without any smoothing applied. You can clearly see the difference between protein and suede pads. Take a closer look at the wall bass and mid-range region, which are going up and down. Surprisingly, the treble didn't move an inch, so you'll be getting the same treble performance with both ear pads. Take a look at the distortion reading. 2% THD in the bass is very common with dynamic headphones, so please don't panic. Their spectrogram looks fantastic. The caps aren't vibrating at all, which is great and hard to achieve. And here is their waterfall, which combines the frequency response with spectral decay. All in all, except for that nasty peak in the treble, they have some excellent measurements that can be usually found in pricier headphones. Wrapping things up, even without listening to them, I do believe they are worth every single penny. This is a full aluminum alloy headphone. The cable is great, it has world-class conductors, you have all possible connectors from single-ended to balanced. You have 2 pairs of ear pads for 2 sound signatures. There's a soft pouch and a hard travel case as well. Their build quality is solid, their comfort level as well, and I do believe that their sound quality comes as a bonus. But seriously now, except for that hard to drive nature, except for that peaky treble output, I cannot complain about anything else. These have a nicer tonality versus entry-level planar headphones, and these are more technical sounding and cleaner sounding compared to entry-level dynamic headphones. For $300, I believe they've got almost everything right, and I do believe they easily won my silver award. This is pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, for supporting my work. My name is Sando, and I'll see you soon. Cheers!